want to tell you about my friend Dingo. Dingo is a pound dog. He's part German Shepherd and part who knows what, actually. I first met Dingo when I went to visit my clients and my friends, Baronel and Daryl Stutzman. And as I went to meet them, I had to travel to the middle of Washington State. The Stutzmans are small town folk, and honestly, it feels a bit like you're traveling to the middle of nowhere. Despite having to travel to no man's land, I always enjoy my time with Baronel and Daryl. And one of my favorite parts of visiting them is Dingo. He's the kind of dog that appears to be a bit of a mangy mutt, and you don't really want to reach down and touch him because you're not quite sure where he's been or what he's eaten. You know the kind I'm talking about. But he is so friendly that I just can't help myself every time. Doesn't matter what I'm wearing, I have to pet Dingo. And honestly, the food at Baronel's could not be better. There is nothing quite like her homemade applesauce. For this working mom and, don't tell anyone, this terrible cook, Chipotle is kind of my version of a healthy dinner for our family. But Baronel would have none of that. As we talked through the other night, it was actually a couple weeks ago, dinner, the cold, stark reality of Baronel's situation hit me. And it hit me hard. You see, Baronel is a 70-year-old grandmother and a mother of 8, and she owns Arlene's Flowers, which is a flower shop. She built that shop with her mom and then bought it from her mom. Baronel's motto is she wants her customers to be customers from birth until death. And she welcomes everyone into the store, regardless of what they look like, who they are, or whom they love. But Baronel's been sued by the Attorney General of the state of Washington. He claims that she violated Washington's laws against discrimination and discriminated on the basis of sexual orientation. If Baronel loses this lawsuit, she doesn't only lose Arlene's Flowers, the shop she built with her mom, but she potentially can lose everything she owns: her home, her savings, retirement. It's what prompted me to ask opposing counsel a few weeks ago, do you plan to take Dingo along with everything else? So what happened? How did we get to this point where a 70-year-old grandmother can be risking everything she owns for one decision that she made? Well, Baronel met Rob Ingersoll 10 years ago in her floral shop, and the two became fast friends. She's been serving him for a decade now, designing all kinds of arrangements. Rob describes their relationship as a warm and friendly relationship. Baronel enjoys her time with Rob. Baronel knew that Rob identified as homosexual because they would talk about his partner, Kurt. And Rob knew that Baronel was religious. Yet for the last 10 years, they worked together, and he would come into the store, they would pick out a vase, and then he would say to Baronel, "Do your thing, Baronel," because as he says, she's amazingly creative. So she would do all these custom designed floral arrangements for him, including arrangements he would give to his partner for birthdays, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, all kinds of occasions. But in 2012, Washington decided to recognize same-sex marriage. And Rob came into the store and, of course, wanted his friend to do his wedding. But Baronel's a Christian, and she believes that marriage is a sacred covenant, marriage between a man and a woman. She also believes that to use her artistic talents, her creativity, to promote same-sex marriage would violate her deeply held religious convictions. So what did she do? Well, she kindly and considerately told Rob, "I can't do your wedding because of my faith, but I can refer you to 3 other florists in our area who can." So that's what she did. They then continued to talk. They talked about the circumstances under which Rob and Kurt got engaged. They talked about Rob's hope for his mother to walk him down the aisle. When Rob left that store, Baronel thought that they were friends, still friends. She had no idea that following her religious convictions, declining to promote a message, using her mind and heart and creative skills that would violate her conscience, and kindly referring her friend to a nearby florist could be construed by the Attorney General as violating the law. It also came as a shock to her because she is a Christian, and she believes that everyone is created in God's image. Everyone deserves respect, That's how she treated Rob. She's employed and served customers who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual. She serves them. But that wasn't good enough for the Attorney General. Her kind response, the fact that she didn't want to have to use her talents to express something that opposed her deeply held convictions, made no difference to him. The kind referral made no difference to the Attorney General. Instead, what he did was sue her, travel the state, and make her case a cause célèbre, denouncing her and using the full force of his office, not just to try to prove she violated this law, but to destroy her, to take all she has. It wasn't as if the Attorney General actually needed Baronell to provide these flowers for Rob and Kurt, because the marketplace has provided plenty of alternatives there. And they admit that they receive lots of offers for free flowers. As I was sitting around that dinner table, it got a little bit quiet after a while. The chit-chat had stopped, and Baronell was starting to look down, and I can always tell now after a few years with Baronell that when she's quiet, what that means is she's thinking about something. So we sat there, and then she looked up and she said, "I really love Rob, and I'm worried about him." I about fell out of my chair, given all that she's been through. But then she went on to say, "Why can't we just each have our perspective? He can live by his beliefs. If he's going to get married, fine, he can get married. But I can follow my convictions and live consistent with those too. Why can't we just get along? Isn't that what America's about? Toleration, diversity?" I just kind of sat there for a minute because honestly, I didn't really know how to answer that question. I lived in Washington State. I know what was being said when they were debating same-sex marriage, and I know what they were debating when they were talking about adding sexual orientation to discrimination laws. And here's what we were told: live and let live. Your same-sex marriage couldn't possibly affect someone else. Look around. Look at Baronell and Daryl. I think it's affecting them pretty profoundly. And the thing is, Baronell's not alone. While laws that prohibit discrimination sound good in principle, they're not being used the way they were intended. The government is using these laws to hurt people, to force them to conform, to use their mind and their heart and their hands to create things that violate their deeply held convictions. They're using these laws to destroy and to punish. This isn't about people getting what they want or what they need. It's about sending a clear message to everyone in our society. If you disagree, you better shut up, or we'll take everything you have. That's the message. It's certainly the message that Baronell's receiving. Take, for example, another one of our recent cases, Kelvin Cochran. Kelvin Cochran used to be the former fire chief of Atlanta, and he actually served as the nation's top fire administrator in the Obama administration. Chief Cochran wrote a book that was a Christian book, and it was for men, and it focused on a wide variety of topics, but it also addressed biblical sexual ethics in it. When the city investigated Chief Cochran, it found that he had never discriminated against anyone, let alone on the basis of sexual orientation. But Chief Cochran actually lost his job. He was fired. He wasn't fired for what he did. He was fired for what he thought. And the mayor of the city of Atlanta has recently publicly stated that the city will destroy Chief Cochran's reputation if he dares to defend himself. Jack Phillips is another example. Jack has been a cake baker for years. He has a cake shop, and he politely declined to bake a cake for a same-sex ceremony. He told the couple, "I'll bake anything you want. I'll sell you cupcakes, brownies, whatever it is you want. I just can't do a same-sex ceremony because of my religious convictions." The Colorado Civil Rights Commission told him that he must violate his conscience, and they ordered him to undergo re-education. One of the commissioners actually said that his religious beliefs were despicable and compared them to slave owners and perpetrators of the Holocaust. I could go on and on with more examples. I could tell you about the family who has their family farm in jeopardy in New Jersey. I can tell you about the elderly couple in Hawaii who faces financial ruin, or the young man in Kentucky who's probably going to lose his print shop if he can't win his case. Or I could tell you about the photographer in New Mexico. She's already lost her business. Or I could tell you about the 2 ministers in Idaho who were literally faced with jail time if they declined to perform same-sex ceremonies. How did we get here? How did we get to this point? Why is this happening? Well, we know it's not happening because same-sex couples can't find cake bakers to bake their cakes, or photographers to take their pictures, or ministers to do their marriages. That's not what's at stake here. And let's not forget Brandon Ike, the CEO of Mozilla. He was set to become CEO, and activists found out that 6 years earlier, he had dared to donate $1,000 to a ballot measure that opposed same-sex marriage. Mozilla had said that Mr. Ike had always operated in an inclusive and welcoming atmosphere. That wasn't good enough. Brandon Ike lost his job. When did we decide that having an open, public, robust discourse made the world worse rather than better? When did we decide that having an inclusive and welcoming environment actually means to exclude people from the marketplace because of their ideas? And how did it become okay to marginalize, to shun, and to personally and professionally destroy people because they declined to use their expressive, creative gifts to promote something that violated the core of who they are? As Jon Stewart aptly said when he was talking about Mr. Ike, I disagree with you, but I'm pretty sure you're not Hitler. Folks, we have to move beyond name-calling and bullying and think about the path that we're on and where it's taking us as a nation. Isn't the true test of religious liberty or any type of liberty what happens when you disagree? Religious liberty is our first liberty. It's the bedrock upon which all other liberties are founded. Stop and think for a minute about other countries that don't have religious liberty. Do they have other kinds of liberties? Do they have robust economic freedom? How are their women and children doing? Are they safe? Are they happy? Are they thriving? Do they have freedom of the press? Do you want to go on vacation there? In America, we're getting to a place where Americans are being forced to surrender their constitutionally protected freedoms, the freedom of association, the freedom of expression, the freedom of religion, the freedoms that have made our nation great, that have given us a cherished diversity, that give us they don't even give us the right, God gives us the right, but that have protected our ability to live consistently with who we are, with our core beliefs. But here's the good news for you. In this nation, we also have a strong, noble, rich history of successfully balancing religious liberty against other important governmental interests. Take, for example, national security and the Quakers. We've successfully, both at the national and state level, protected religious liberty, even when interests like national security are at issue. In fact, did you know that there are over 2,000 federal and state laws that protect religious liberty and do not harm substantially any other interest? We balance them. That's what America has been about. And until the last few years, marriage has always been between a man and a woman, and this belief is shared by all major religions. We don't need to force people to create things that violate their conscience. We don't need to send people to jail or threaten them with jail. We don't need to take everything they have just because they have a different viewpoint on marriage. We don't need to give up our right to live consistently with our faith because we live outside the 4 walls of the church Monday through Friday. So, in answer to Baronel's question, can't we just get along? Why can't we just get along? The answer is yes. Yes, we can, we have, and we must. We must get along. But to do that, we have to have true toleration. Toleration that we've embraced as a nation for the last 200 years. The toleration that, when I looked the other day, is still defined in the dictionary. The kind that you put up with, you bear. You allow other differing viewpoints even when you think that they're wrong. This is the kind of toleration that Rob and Baronell had for each other for 10 years before the Attorney General of the state of Washington decided to sue Baronell and try to take everything she owns.